Okay, so I guess let's go ahead and call to order at 1:02 by my computer.
Perfect.
I'm
Right.
taking minutes.
Perfect.
Thank you, Janie.
You're welcome. Okay.
Okay, so we've got Jenny, Janie, Bonnie, and me.
Hello. My husband just walked in the door.
Oh,
He always wants to make sure somebody's home.
Oh,
Especially when the house is wide open, you know?
yeah.
love that.
Okay, so then we've got the minutes from the last meeting, which was July 22nd. Are there any changes that anyone wants to make to those minutes?
No.
Okay, so then I will be looking for a motion to approve the minutes from the July 22nd HR meeting.
So move.
Okay,
Second.
okay. Bonnie and then Jenny. All right. Oops. Got too many screens open. Here we go. Okay, so then the next item on the agenda, Jenny had mentioned discussing any applications that have been received so far, the general process up to this point for the director position.
Yes, thanks, Katie. Thanks so much, Janie, for monitoring the mailbox. And I know you're going out of town, so I'll start checking it regularly. And I can.
Yeah, you can start doing that like maybe on the 10th.
Okay, on the 10th.
I'll be here until
Okay.
then.
And I haven't done it yet, but I'll make a spreadsheet of, any applications we've received.
Okay.
And then I was wondering, so we've only gotten one application so far.
In addition to Katie and.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yes. One external.
We don't forget about those. Those are the first.
No, I was gonna say I still have to officially submit mine, but yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't, thank you, Katie. And thank you, Janie, for correcting me. I didn't know, someone had mentioned to me that there are sometimes jobs posted with the Chamber of Commerce. Does anyone know?
Really? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either, but I didn't know if you wanted me to explore if there's any local job posting things that are free that we might be able to, I don't know if the village posts any openings and stuff like that. I know that we already have quality candidates, but I just like the idea of people in Lake Bluff knowing that we're looking for a new director, and just any kind of people that use the library, just so they feel like they've been included in the process and they are aware that, maybe if they missed the newsletter, that they're aware that Eric has left, and, just the process that we're going through. I just feel like it makes it more open for us. So I didn't know if anyone had any suggestions, because I know we already have quality applicants. I love the idea of any people in town, any Lake Bluff supporters of the library, that they all know what we're up to.
Mm-hmm.
Is that common? Do you know? I don't know anything about, what the chamber does. So is that common for them to?
I don't even know either. That my neighbor had mentioned it to me. So I thought maybe I could just do a little exploring. And if there are places, I have a friend that's on the village board. Maybe she has some suggestions of places within Lake Bluff that we could post. And if not, then we'll just continue with the library. But I just wanted to check before I move forward with anything.
That's great. That's a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, certainly the village would post jobs. Parks Department might also post jobs separately. It might be worth looking to see if we could link, if they would be willing to have a little comments.
Yeah.
Maybe about, Eric's left. We are looking for a new library. Please, here's a link to apply.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So you guys are okay with that? Because I can
Yeah.
talk to my friend that's on the board and just see if she has suggestions. And there might not be a place, but then, yes, Bonnie, if they have a link, then that'd be great if we were just included on it.
Yeah.
So,
One thought that
if-
sorry, Janie, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, the one thing we'd want to do if we put a bunch of links out there is make sure we take them down.
mhm.
You know, I have more than once gone on wild goose chases to places that are listed online, that have been like closed for 8 years. but they
Yeah.
still have a presence.
Right?
It's taught me to make a phone call before I
Right?
drive to Kenosha or something.
That's a good idea. And Jeannie, I could just make a list. I don't even foresee it being probably more than like 2 or 3 other places in Lake Bluff that we could post. But I can make a list for us that we can just follow up at the end of September when we close.
Perfect.
We close our listing with the Illinois Library Association too.
Yeah, one thought that I had, and I know I was not present for the discussions of the posting and stuff like that, but I know I mentioned or asked about putting or including the salary range on the job posting, and it had been decided not to do that for the time being. But the finance committee is going to be meeting tomorrow evening, and one of the topics of discussion is a salary range. I was going to suggest it might be worth, once we have that established, including that in the job posting and then reposting it. With the job market as it is right now, most places are really moving towards including that information in most of their job postings to where it's kind of expected. And a quick looking at just a quick survey of just the Rails site, for example, the majority of job postings list that information. And I think we may be missing out on a lot of candidates that they're like, well, if I don't have that information up front, I'm not going to waste my time applying in case the expectations don't match up. But once the finance committee approves a range, it might be worth reposting it and then seeing if we get additional applicants with that new information.
Yeah, thank you, Katie.
Hmm.
Is anyone on the committee going to the finance? I don't know. Is anyone on finance besides? Okay.
No, I was gonna say if Kathy were here, she would be our crossover, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure they'll
Yeah.
be happy to share that info with us, but
yeah, and I'm going to make the same recommendation to them as well, that this information be posted on the official posting. I think we're going to, especially in libraries where we are seeing a ton of different jobs and a lot of different salary ranges. I think it'll be helpful for us. I think we'll see an increase in the number of people applying.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, because yes, when I looked on the online, they do all have they have a range, if not the exact starting salary. So thank you for bringing that up, and that's nice. I'm glad that finance is meeting. I didn't know where they were with that. So that's
yeah, we've been trying to get a meeting set up for a while, and then now it finally fell into place. I'm like, oh, good.
good, because there's another issue having to do with finishing up the storeroom. that needs
Oh,
to be
yeah.
Yeah,
addressed.
finance committee's kind of like the
Yeah.
midpoint for all of these different
Yeah, yeah,
discussions.
yeah.
So yeah, we'll definitely be discussing that as well. So okay.
Well, that is great. That was really all I had in regards to director applications. We'll just keep an eye on. Thank you, Janie, for monitoring the email, and then I will take over when you go on your vacation, because I think then we'll circle back to talk about what our next steps are.
Okay, sounds good. The one thing I wanted to mention is I looked, just before I signed on for this, I looked at the email again, and the one applicant we had did write me back, just saying thank you for acknowledging her,
Oh, thank you.
so
Yeah.
I think that's really important to do. I mean,
Mhm.
I remember from years ago, applying for jobs and, you know, people would just totally ghost you, and that works both ways.
Mhm.
Right.
I've been reading that's even more of a problem in this age of instant communication, that you know, people even take jobs and then don't show up.
Oh,
Stuff like
wow.
that. It's pretty amazing when I read stuff like that. But yeah, just to respond and
Mhm.
let them know
Yeah.
that you got their information is a good thing. And
It is really nice because I feel like sometimes you can end up wondering, did they get it? Did they?
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
have they
Yeah.
already filled the position? And that, yeah, I think it's like you said, it's good. It's good for good energy to respond.
Yeah, it's the
And
right thing to do.
yeah, and Eric is all for fulfilling other positions. He and the department heads have always made a point to reach out to candidates, keep them updated on timelines and let them know when decisions will be made. So that's very much fitting with the type of process that Eric really worked hard to instill. So yeah, definitely.
That is great. Okay, and then there's actually one more thing in regards to the director applications. I thought it was really nice that the staff really took the time to give feedback on what they were looking for in director, in the next director. Katie, I think we got four or five people that provided feedback to the board.
Mhm.
And I was just wondering, I'd like for us to follow, I think it'd be nice if we responded and just said something around that says that we received it. If that's okay. And I don't know if we want to, because Martha might have sent it out. Is that right? Martha might have sent out that link.
I'd
With,
have to go back and double check, but
with like the survey, but I just want to respond from the board that we've received it, and we're taking it into consideration all, you know, and we appreciate their feedback, if that's okay
Yeah.
with everybody.
yeah, I think now I can't remember the form. Did staff submit their names or was it an anonymous
It's
form?
anonymous.
Okay, so just kind of a general, like, board received the information, that type of thing.
Yes, so
Okay, yeah,
if I send something to you, I don't know if you
Sure.
maybe just send it around to the staff. Okay,
sure, yeah, no problem.
okay, great. I just wanna, I was grateful that they really took the time, and I thought it was.
Yeah, I thought the feedback was really good.
Yeah, and I think Janie, I love that we have, you know, that list of draft questions for
Yeah.
interviews, but I thought maybe once we get closer, then we could kind of review what the staff feedback was and see if we want to incorporate, how we could incorporate some of that within the questions.
Okay, sounds great.
So that's kind of down the road. Okay, so did anyone else have anything in regards to applications? So the next thing that we had on the agenda was the discussion of the HR review process. So I know I sent these questions out in June, sorry, but we didn't get a chance to get to it because of Eric's departure and the other things that kind of took this. But this was just kind of these questions, and Katie was nice enough to include the attachment in the email that she sent around, and it was goals for meeting with library directors to review their HR procedures and to see if we can, if they have any feedback, and if there's any things that we might be able to incorporate in our review process for staff. So before Eric left, he put me in touch with, because he knew kind of what direction we were going in, he put me in touch with 4 directors, one at the Highland Park Library, one at the Glencoe Library, one at the Cook Library, and one at the Deerfield Public Library. So what I wanted to do was take these questions that I had on this form. They already kind of know what we were doing, but I said I wanted to touch base with our committee first to make sure these questions represent something that we're interested in learning about, and put it into a Google form and send it to them. And then if they're available, to follow up with a phone call with them to just kind of talk through some of their feedback that they have. So, and some of this kind of came around because of the way that Eric's review went. I thought it was really nice, but I think I'd love to see us incorporate another piece into the review, which is kind of sitting down with, you know, the director, and I don't know if this can be part of something we do with employees too, to kind of see what direction they'd like to see what goals they have for themselves and how we can incorporate that into their process. So for example, like, are they looking for a salary increase, and how do we as a board, are we able to incorporate that into, so that they can kind of anticipate what their year is going to look like? How can we incorporate more metrics into their reviews? As well as some other things like I know that there's a librarian week, is there a way that as a board, we can, do some things for the librarians that are to honor them and to, so these are just, I'm just curious to see how other libraries are able to do that, because, and I think we're in a challenging spot because we don't have someone who's in charge of HR. So Katie, as of right now, you're really you're the director and the HR department.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And like,
Snow removal.
No.
exactly. So, and how as a board, we could support the director in doing some of this. So, so that was kind of what this forum is about. So.
Yeah, I thought the list of questions to ask other library directors was a good place to start.
Yeah.
And as part of the IT committee, I was in touch with Deerfield.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be happy, I could be the person who reaches out again to the director at Deerfield.
Great.
Since that's on the list. And I would maybe give them two options. One, could they fill it out on their own? Or if they prefer to schedule time, 30 minutes or whatever.
Right.
And answer the questions maybe in a live format.
Sure.
They might prefer one or the other. I think if they do the Google form without it, like an interactive discussion, then saying, would you also be willing to do a discussion, makes sense. But I'm just thinking there are some people who might prefer just to have a discussion.
Yeah, that is good. So I was thinking, and maybe we don't even need a Google form. Bonnie, I'd like to send the questions in advance to them just so they can have an idea of like, so do you think there's like too many questions, or do you think that these questions were okay? And if people didn't have a chance to look at them, if you want to like send me feedback on any of them, and I don't know, but Janie, if like you have a lot going on, if Bonnie, you're more interested in doing it, I don't, it doesn't have to be anybody that is interested. And I would love it if you wanted to take two of them and talk to them, that'd be great. And they're already open to like discussing it. They said, so I told him we could get back in touch with them once we had met.
I just have a question for Katie. That seems like we do a lot of, I'm thinking back and it never really occurred to me before, but Eric used to reach out to other library directors and other libraries in the area a lot with stuff like this. And it occurred to me that it's taking up valuable time to respond to things like this. Do other libraries call us? Did Eric spend a lot of time participating in stuff like this? I just wonder how much collaboration there is amongst local libraries, with matters like this.
There's a lot.
Well, that's good to know. That's
yeah,
really
no,
good to
it's
know.
a very collaborative network. I know Eric, a lot of the collaboration happens. There's I believe it's a director's listserv through Rails, which I actually need to figure out how to get myself on. But he's said that especially during the pandemic, the listserv was really invaluable for sharing ideas and situations and problems that some libraries were coming up against and looking for input. And the community just in general of libraries in the area in particular is really open to sharing suggestions for what they're doing, what's working. People are very open to talking about this type of stuff. So yeah, very, very collaborative. I'm not sure exactly the exact dynamic. I know Eric is, well, he's frequently in touch with Catherine Lemmer over at Lake Forest. He's been in touch with Heidi at Highland Park. I was also going to mention, I mentioned this before in a few different capacities, but I used to work at Waukegan with both Heidi, the director at Highland Park, and Carmen, the director at Highwood. So I'm well, I know both of them really well. But yeah, Eric frequently talks to people at Cook Memorial, Deerfield, Northbrook, all of the big nearby libraries. And yeah, they're a really invaluable source of information.
Okay, I was just wondering how presumptuous it is of us to send them a document like that and say, please weigh in,
Yeah, oh no, very, very much par for the
Okay.
course. Very
Okay.
expected.
Okay, good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Not all businesses run like that,
No, libraries in general
Far
tend to
from
be
it.
very, very collaborative and very willing to share information. But I think especially in this area, that's very, very much the community.
Good. That's great to know. Okay, so the plan is, Jenny, to get these out to the people on your list. Were you going to add to the list?
I think if we start with 4, they already said they were open to it. I think if we start with 4, I think that would be a good place to start, and we can see if the information is helpful, if we need any other things. I think that would be a good place to start. I was wondering though, if we could narrow down, like when I look back at my list, I think when we started, we were kind of in a different place. Like I was hoping we could narrow down the questions to like at least less than 10, and I'm thinking we can get rid of like number 10. So I just think if there's someone else that would be willing to like take a look at the questions and kind of filter through the ones that you think don't work, or that would be great. If someone wanted to give me feedback, that'd be great. So I don't want them to feel like this is they're spending time on things that maybe aren't worth their time or something. You know what I mean? I want them to be our biggest questions.
Okay, I'd be happy to look at that and give you feedback on it. You sent that out already, didn't you?
Yeah, and it's on Katie's email too.
And
It's in your email, Katie?
yeah,
It's an
Okay.
attachment, and
and
Janie,
there's 12 of them now, right? So
Okay.
it's just about, eliminating 2 questions or finding a way like, hey, I think we can get at this at question number 11 with the answer to
Yeah.
question 5.
We get a little
Yeah.
bit or something, yeah.
Yeah, and I always see those things as, like it's a discussion guide. You don't have to follow it by the rule, because inevitably, if you have a live discussion with someone,
Mhm.
something else is going to come up.
Right.
Mhm.
I was gonna say real quickly, just looking at the questions, this may vary from library to library, but question
Yeah.
number 10, if board members meet with employees or if this is strictly the role of the director. My understanding from most libraries is that that employee reviews of that nature they're handled by the department head or the director or whatever. Usually the board, the library board isn't brought in for those types of interactions. So I would be pretty surprised if one of the libraries on your list gave a different answer to that. So that's one that you might be able to strike from the list.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like 11, 10, 8, and 9, either 8 and 9. So anyways, yes, thank you, Katie, because I definitely think that one we could get rid of.
I'm sharing them now.
Great.
Thank you.
If you want to take a quick look at them, Jeannie.
And Janie, like the top part of the form was more for our meeting purposes. This is not for like that we would send it out to other directors.
Okay,
It would, it would be more about, I would draft something just so that it's more about that we're gathering information.
gotcha.
So. And like number 11, the exit interview that we did with Eric, we did ask him if it was okay to share with the board, and then we did. So I kind of think some of those might be employee specific, and also, you know, what we're as a library, as a board comfortable with.
And a couple, having more than 10 questions might actually be all right if some of them, like number 11, are really basically yes, no answers.
Yeah,
You know, they might elaborate a little bit on the why. Yes, because blah, blah, blah. But
right.
I don't see anyone spending a whole lot of time on that. I think things more like, how do you determine goals? What kind of metrics do you use?
Yeah,
You know, I think those are the ones that are going to be really more fruitful
yes.
and meatier in terms of response.
Yes, and I'm hoping that with each, with those kind of things, that some of these places just have a form that they use that we would be able to like kind of take and incorporate into our process. Because I think a lot of it is just, how do you make, like, I think our exit interview ended up looking nice for Eric, and I think we can use that for other employees. And so I'm really just looking for how can we make this as easy as possible and update some of our forms that we've been using.
Well,
Yeah,
the other
Jenny,
thing
can you?
that, you know, jumps to my mind with number 11 is, it seems to me that would be on a case-by-case basis.
Right. Yeah. So I think we could probably like delete that one for sure.
Okay.
And 10, like Katie said, we can get rid of that one. So there's 2 that are already gone.
Okay. So we're looking at 8 and 9.
Yeah. And like, I'm
Jenny,
not
can
sure.
you- Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm not sure that like how often you get feedback from your community, how are you gathering it? I'm not sure it's directly HR related. So, you know, I don't know. So I don't know.
I feel like 8 leads to 9, at least the
Yeah.
way when
Yeah,
I read it,
I
it sounds
agree.
like really the piece of it that becomes HR is, you know, does community feedback factor into employee evaluations or goal setting?
Yes.
There you
'cause
go.
I was thinking like if someone said, you know, I'm interested in more children's programming or something like that, and an employee then took that goal and used it for something else like that, that's amazing that we're using feedback from the community to help guide us in where we're going as the library. Or if the director set that as a, you know, so that was kind of what my thought was behind those. So, but it's a little bit more complicated than just like a regular question.
What was it that you replaced 8 and 9 together with? Bonnie, can you remember what you
I
just
just said, does community feedback factor into employee evaluations or goal setting? And you can say, does community feedback such as, you know, comments made maybe at the circulation desk or formal surveys factor into employee evaluations or goal setting?
Does community feedback factor into employee evaluations or goal setting? Is that pretty much what you said?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
And can I ask something, because I'm still so new, I just don't know how things are always done on our board. Like, so for example, when we met with Eric last year, we did his evaluation and then met with finance afterwards for about his raise.
Yes.
So is that always how raises are done, that you meet, you do an evaluation and then the board, and like Eric had talked about this before, that, you know, maybe we should do have someone from the outside come in and take a look at where our employee salaries are and see what recommendations there are for moving forward. You know, do we have, like, is this question, what I think I'm asking is like, do we have a process for how we plan for these things, or is it done just on a case-by-case basis?
Well, for as long as I've been on, and I think I'm probably the longest serving person in this group. Kathy could give you more information, but it seems to me that it's always been that way, that, you know, we create the evaluation, and then shortly thereafter, HR meets, and we have a joint meeting with HR and finance to get an idea and to kind of hash over and make a recommendation to the full board about what, you know, what's going to happen,
Okay.
what the raise will be.
And then last year, Katie, and I think Janie and Bonnie, you were all there. Last year, there was just an increase for all employees, right? And that was just determined because Eric asked for it. Is that right?
But
Well-
I think there has always been at least some increase for all employees every
Okay.
time.
Yeah,
Because-
um,
Go ahead,
sorry.
Katie.
no, I was just gonna say, yeah, typically at the end of the year, and granted, I've only been here for a few evaluations, but there's, and since I started working here, there's been some type of an increase for all staff at the end of that takes effect at the beginning of the new fiscal year. A big portion of that was driven by the need to get caught up with compliance with the eventual $15 minimum wage.
Right.
So the majority of that focus was bringing the staff members at the lowest tier, bringing them up to the $15. But with the retirement of a long-term staff member last year, we were able to use that to overall just increase the base pay for our assistant and associate level positions. And that was also done because we were trying to fill a couple of positions at the time that we just were not getting good applicants for. And I believe correctly figured that it was probably the lower pay that was driving away some of our more qualified candidates. And yeah, as soon as we reposted the jobs with a higher salary, we started getting much better candidates to choose from. So that was unusual. And that was driven by circumstance and, you know, just kind of the right things falling into place at the right time. But yeah, usually at the end of the year, there would be some kind of an increase for all staff.
Okay.
Typically, from my understanding, is that Eric would always work up a budget that would include salary increases across the board, including his. That
Okay.
there'd be a pot of money for salary increases, and it would be up to the board to decide what his increase was, and then he would take the remainder of that and make decisions on
Oh,
how
okay.
the rest of it gets apportioned to other employees. But
Okay.
I don't remember ever. Once again, Kathy would be the person who would know that, because she keeps a lot tighter mental image of what that is, because she's so frugal with the public monies, which is a good thing. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that there has been at least somewhat of a raise for every employee.
Okay, because I probably missed that step last year when we talked about it for Eric's, because I wasn't on, I'm not on finance, so I probably just missed that whole discussion. But that's good to know, because I didn't know what our process was.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. And then the last thing I was wondering about is, like, right now, like, what kind of staff appreciation are we doing through the year?
Well, I was gonna say, I know that's something Eric has asked the department heads about a lot, especially during the pandemic. And especially when we were short-staffed, and we were really stretching to fill staffing gaps at the time, and everyone was getting a little burnt out. But in the past, we've done the most recent one, I think, was Eric and Kathy helped coordinate Bluffington's gift cards for staff so that they could, enough to cover the cost of a lunch. And that way they, staff can choose what they wanted. So we've done stuff like that in the past. As for on a very small level, we've done like just little mood booster things like during the holidays or something. Like we did like a New Year's Eve gift grab bag for all staff with like a Starbucks gift card in there and like other little things. It's been an ongoing discussion. I know from spending so many years on the staff end of that, especially my job at Waukegan, and he's like, what can we do to increase, to help, support staff or boost morale? And I was like, hire more staff and, all this stuff. I'm like, honestly, that's what's going to help. So it's hard. We want to make sure that when we've had these discussions, we've always wanted to make sure that what we're doing is, even if we're not able to fix the core roots of what's, creating difficulties at work or whatever might be needed the most, even if we can't fix it, what we're doing feels sincere and meaningful. Because there's really nothing worse than getting kind of like a token appreciation. So we've always strived.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an image that makes the rounds online where it's like a little cartoon and it's like of a drowning person with a struggling hand, and then there's a management hand coming down like to help him out, and then it high fives him and goes, pizza party. And then the other person's like, no, not quite. So that's what we want to try to avoid.
Yeah,
And so we always approach it with that in mind, but we have yet to stumble upon something that really that's like, that was exactly what we needed to do.
Yeah. Thank you for telling us, Katie. That's great. I think so. I think it would be nice to include that, both of those, just to see how other libraries are doing some of those things, to see if we can get some good ideas of things that we might be able to incorporate in what we're doing. And I just didn't want to ask those questions if we already, if we're already set as far as, but it looks like it's okay to find out more about how other libraries are doing.
Honestly, yeah, I will say, since the discussion is open, something that that our old director Richard did at Waukegan, that was, well, we were, for a few years, we were in a position financially to do a one-time holiday bonus for staff based on the number of hours that they worked, which was great. But even when we weren't financially able to do that, around the holidays, Richard always gifted staff with an additional day of PTO. In addition to their bank, it had to be used within a certain time frame. And so there were some stipulations. So it had to be used within like a 2 or 4 week span. But that was something that staff really appreciated. And it was also something that when the new director came on, she elected not to do that. And staff were kind of like, really?
Katie, it's interesting you say that, because that was one of the first things that popped into my mind when you were talking about different things that could be done. A day of PTO, especially around the holidays, whether it's before or after, somewhere in the time frame from like mid-November to mid-January or something like that. Just a day of PTO sometimes can be invaluable. And I mean, we've all worked, so we know what that's like. And I don't know how much that costs the library. I mean, it seems to me the cost would be minimal.
Yeah, because the PTO is also, it's I can't think of the word. It's correlated with the number of hours that the person works at the library. So someone who works, if they work 4 days a week, 5 hours a day, total of 20 hours, they would get like a 4 or 5 hour, they would get 4 or 5 hours of PTO, not a full 8-hour day.
Right.
So it did correspond with the number of scheduled hours for the person. So there is that, but yeah, in terms of outright cost, especially compared to impact, I think that's probably one of the options is probably going to give us the most bang for our buck, so to speak.
Yeah.
And Katie, another thing that it's funny because I was just writing down a couple notes because now that Eric's moved to Wapaka, I'm following the Wapaka Library, and
Oh yeah, I should start.
They have they have some days that they're closed around Labor Day, in addition to Labor Day itself. So I was kind of wondering if we have done some benchmarking on days that the library is closed, like Juneteenth, the new federal holiday.
Yeah.
Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day, same day, different name.
We have dealt with that in the past. We've looked at that, and I think, haven't we increased in the last year or two? We
actually, there were 2 days that 1 or 2 days that we had been closed in the past, but found that a lot of libraries in the area were staying open. I think like Martin Luther King Day and like President's Day, I think might have been. And so so because we were eliminating those 2 days off, we increased the amount of personal time.
Thank you. I remember
staff
doing
members.
something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, with the designation of Juneteenth as a national holiday, that question has come up amongst staff just already, is that something that's going to be factored in? I know, I believe last year was the first year, I can't remember, but recently we did we did close early the day before Thanksgiving. I think we closed at like 5 o'clock, which is standard practice for a lot of libraries. Trying to remember. Yeah, in some stuff it varies library by library, like some, for example, like some libraries are open like on New Year's Eve till 5, some close like we do for the entire day. I think it's not, I was gonna say, I don't think it's standard practice, although I wish it was, the Friday after, or the Black Friday after Thanksgiving, Waukegan was always closed on that day, but not every library is. So there's some variation, but yeah, with some of these new changes, I know there have been some adjustments.
Yeah. Well, it sounds then like it was a good place for us to research like how other libraries are doing, because I also think, it's not that anyone would want to give something like a token or anything, but I think like even like a tray of cookies or something to just show our appreciation, and it can be something from the trustees, so I think HR is a good place to talk about it, just because we're on the side of, and on like the employee side, thinking about how can we show our appreciation, and, and definitely like for the library week, library, I think there's the librarian, is it the day of like, is it a library appreciation day?
It's library appreciation week,
right?
And there's a day, I think, hang on, let me see. Library appreciation week.
Because I loved how like it was so nice when we all got together for Eric's going away. And I think we can do something like that on on a smaller scale, but where we're, and maybe it's providing lunch for everyone that's working that day or something, but like for the library.
That's what we've done in the past, is we've done a holiday luncheon.
Sorry. Yes. And I know some of it's been COVID.
Yeah.
And then maybe for the library appreciation week, maybe if we could come up with just something we could do once every day, once a day for the employees there, it doesn't have to be big, maybe just something smaller.
Yeah, it's National Library Week, and there's this designated day for appreciation of library staff. And I
Mhm.
think there's another day set aside for like volunteers or trustees or something like that. So
Did you find dates?
no, I was just laughing because I'm just remembering from, again, more from my time at Waukegan when I was, just a full-time frontline staff member. And when this came around, we just all look at each other and go, oh, goody, we get a day. Like, but, yeah,
Every day should be your day.
that's, well, see, that's what we said. But yeah, the dates for the next one, it's always in April. So this one says National Library Week, April 23rd through 29th, 2023. I'm trying to how is it celebrated? Like, I think I'm trying to find, they do have specific designated days, like one might be like Bookmobile Day or something like that. Yeah, this is not a helpful website.
Well, and it looks like National Librarian Day is April 16th, 2023.
Oh, okay. Maybe that week's calculation was off. It said like the 22nd to the 29th or something like that, but
But yeah, I think there's like a whole week, but that's probably,
mhm.
and I know these are all probably things that have been done in the past, but I feel like because of COVID, so many things have kind of gone to the
Yeah.
wayside because of like gathering restrictions and stuff like that and sharing food restrictions. So it might just be a good time for us to review again and see if there's come up with some suggestions that we could present to the board about what we could do this year that.
Yeah, I know one thing that got put to the back burner, unfortunately, because it was right in the middle of the big COVID spike over the winter, was we were gonna have an after hours pizza party for staff, like on a Friday, like at the beginning of January. But as we were watching the COVID numbers, we are like, this is probably not smart.
Yeah.
But that was something that we were all really looking forward to, just being able, like, after hours, just to relax, just spend time with coworkers without having to worry about desk coverage. And people were going to bring their families and their kids to, as well. It was we were really looking forward to that as just kind of a nice way to relax, and we were never able to implement it because
I know.
COVID.
Last year got crazy.
Yep.
I like that idea. I think I should. I'm a little reluctant to go on record, but I'm going to say it anyway. I've never been a big fan of that holiday luncheon thing, for many reasons, which I won't go into here. But if you guys were actually excited about an after hours pizza party for families, have your spouses and kids come if they want to. I just remember how, Jenny, your kids seemed to enjoy it. Eric's kids certainly did. It was nice to see, Martha's little guy. Hadn't seen him yet. It's just fun to do that kind of stuff. So an after hours pizza party sometime in April, to celebrate that week, I think would be a really neat idea.
Yeah, it was so nice. It was so nice to meet people's spouses and stuff like, I thought that was really nice. I was like, oh, I think this is the first time. But, last year was so hard. It was going to be a normal year, and then it just didn't end up being like a normal year. So I feel, but then keeping my fingers crossed that this year will be better. And we could do some of these things again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So maybe if you wouldn't mind, Janie, if you would look over the questions, if you don't mind, I can then put them into a Google form.
Well, I thought we just did that and kind of
okay.
rewrote one. We kind of combined 8 and 9. You
Okay.
want me to write that out for you and send it back to you? Because I thought
no,
we
you can read it to me.
just decided to totally eliminate 10 and 11.
Okay, and then did you think everything else looked okay?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Oh, wait, will you tell me 8 and 9 again together?
8 and 9 together. Does community feedback factor into employee evaluations or goal setting?
Okay.
Now, what that does not ask is how feedback is gathered and how frequently they do it.
Yeah.
Which
I think is okay, because I think the long-term planning committee, right, is kind of, that's more their that's more what they're in charge of deciding.
Exactly. And,
Right.
you know, the fact that we've done it is, I think it's every other year, although pandemic kind of put us off an extra year. So, we had a 3-year gap this last time, but, you know, with Eric leaving, a lot of what we had planned to do kind of got pushed to the back burner. There's nothing wrong with that. You
Right.
know, there's no cosmic schedule that we have to be meeting or anything, you know,
Yeah.
so, we've kind of at least got that in motion, and, can certainly do that this coming year. I'm trying to remember if, was it planned to do some sort of a survey? Does anybody remember what long-range planning decided to do for a survey? Because I remember talking about that, but I don't remember the
Well,
details.
they have it out already, and I think
Oh,
it closes it.
that's right.
The
duh.
patron satisfaction survey, yeah.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Hello, I haven't done it yet.
Well,
I-
I was gonna say, you have, as of right now, I believe the closing date for closing the survey is tomorrow, so.
I have a day.
There you go, Janie. So I think it's great that we eliminated that part, because I don't think it's part of our committee anyway. So I think I think the new question really fits into with what HR is doing. So
Okay.
then maybe Bonnie, if you wouldn't mind, maybe you could communicate with 2 of the directors, and I could take 2 of the directors that we have. You said Deerfield would be one.
Yes, I'd be happy to do Deerfield.
And the
And
other
then
ones were-
I don't have a preference for the other. It doesn't matter to me.
Okay, you want to just, there was Cook Library, Glencoe, or Highland Park. Do you like any of those that you'd like to talk to? I don't know if you met with anyone else.
The other person I met with was Northbrook,
Oh,
and
okay,
they're not on the list.
yeah,
So I'll take
Maybe
Highland Park.
Highland Park. Yeah,
Okay.
Highland Park kind of fits in.
all right, perfect.
Take Highland Park.
And then Jenny, you're gonna do which ones?
I'm gonna do Cook Library and Glencoe.
What was the first one you said? I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, Cook
Libertyville?
Library.
Cook and
Libertyville.
Libertyville.
That's Cook Memorial in Libertyville. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bonnie, what I'll do is I'll just put together a Google form, because even if they decide they want to do it over the phone with you, then you can just add it into the Google form and we'll have all of it in one place.
Yeah.
And then I'll
Sounds good.
send it to you, and then we can meet, we're gonna meet again, I think at the end of September, once we close the application stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Katie, what would be your advice on when is usually the best time to try to catch someone? Is it like on a Friday evening, or they're done, you know,
I was
and
gonna say, it depends. It depends on the person, on the director, it depends on the library. I know, I try to send the stuff out during the workday, just so that it's, I mean, when they're likely to already be working, if they don't get back to me for a few days or whatever, if they're busy, that's fine. But yeah, some people are, you know, they'll keep longer hours or work evenings or have a more flex schedule. I mean, I've only been in this position for a few weeks, but I'm really trying to keep as much of it as I can to standard working hours, so I don't have to do too much at home. So yeah, it really depends, but I just in general, I err on the side of working normal business hours.
okay.
Okay,
Sounds
Jenny, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
such a spaz here. You said you were gonna do Cook Memorial and what other?
Glencoe.
Glencoe. Thank you.
Yes. So Bonnie, what I can do is I can just CC you on the email that Eric already started. So once we have the form and stuff like that, to just introduce you and say that you're gonna be reaching out to them.
Okay, that's fine. So it's something that is like a form letter or something that I would actually be sending and signing.
Well, you guys could decide, like what I was thinking is he already put me on an email with some of them. So what I would just do is say, I want to introduce Bonnie. She's
Got it.
with our HR committee, and she's going to be in touch regarding regarding, talking to you about it. And then you guys could decide, then you guys could take me off the email and you guys could decide if you want to talk over the phone. Then you would just so it's like follows the chain already that he started.
Got it.
Just
Sounds good.
okay, perfect. Great. So I'll get that list to you by the end of the week, Bonnie, and then I'll follow up with the email by Monday.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks. Oh, I think, let's see. Is that everything? What's on our agenda?
I was gonna say, I did not have any additional agenda items beyond this unless there was something else that anyone wanted to bring up.
No, thank you
Okay.
everyone for your time.
All right, so then,
Thank you.
Oh,
1:58, we need a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
I second.
All righty,
All right.
meeting adjourned
Yeah.
at 1:58.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
guys.
Enjoy the beautiful
Bye.
day,
Yeah,
Yes.
go enjoy it.
right?
Safe
Take care.
travels,
Bye,
Janie.
everybody.